Hello guys, welcome to the 6th class of the expert course from Scriptcase. My name is Carlos and I'm your instructor for this course. Today we're going to create a set of applications that's going to be used to display other applications in order to make our system a little bit friendlier to the interface of the end user and create a counter application using our own code in a blank application through a blank application we're going to call My Calendar using the API from Scriptcase. We'll use the form appointments to help us maintain the data of this application we're going to create. Okay, so let's access here. Let's access here the project. Okay, just give it a moment. Okay, so we have here our applications. Let's create a new one. This first application that we're going to create is going to be a tab application. Alright. So we're going to select here tabs. And we're going to call it tabs appointments. Okay, let's create it. Well, basically the view of tabs is that they work similar to the tabs of the actual browser. But it's intended for each tab to hold one or more applications. In this case, we have folder settings. For each tab has the reference of a folder exactly. So what we're going to do first, we're going to create a couple folders, in other words tabs. So the first one is going to be, see the applications here that we're going to use. We're going to use the appointments, appointments history, appointments details. So the first one I'm going to call appointments. The second one I'm going to call history. And the third one I'm going to call details. So I'm going to run it at first so you guys can see exactly how it looks like. Basically, it's going to contain 3 tabs. Tab 1, Tab 2, Tab 3. And in each tab that we see here is going to contain an application individually. So since I created here the folders, I'm now going to go here to application settings, and for the appointments I'm going to add the grid appointments that we created, this one right here. Next, and what we see here are the parameters that the application requires. Detail. The tabs application doesn't have any events. So how am I going to pass a value to it directly? Okay. The application doesn't have events, but remembering that global variables are accessed on every event basically in the entire project when declared in that case. So what do we have here? We have 4 global variables. The var appointments, user login, var current status, and user group. Okay? What we're going to do is simple. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to say that it's going to have the value of a variable with the same name. All of them actually with the same name. Why am I doing this? I'm going to show you why. Let me just finish this. Okay. Save. When I set those settings to be variables, if I go here to the application menu, this application contains global variables. So when I access that, it identifies all those variables that I just created, and I'm going to set the values to be in because I'm going to expect those values to be declared in when I'm calling this application. In fact, so when I pass the values to this application, it's going to distribute the values through all the applications that require them. So what does that mean exactly? Firstly, in the appointments, grid appointments, we had the var appointments ID, correct? In this case, in the grid appointments history, I also have a var appointments ID. So if I apply this here, does it mean that it's going to create another global variable? No. It means that it's going to use exactly the same variable that's been created on the previous link. This one being the details, grid appointments details. Apply here. Save. And now let's run the application. So it's going to ask me. I'm going to say 1, admin, current status 2, and 2. Note that the appointments ID has been used on all 3 tabs. So when I direct myself to the appointments, it's going to load on this first one the appointment itself. In this tab, it's going to load the history for that specific appointment. And this third tab is going to list the details of this appointment. Alright, so this is good if you want to display various steps of, actually various layers of information relating to one same record based on their ID. So this is a perfect solution for that case, since it's organized in tabs or folders, if you like to call them that, and it also allows you to set one or more applications per tab. But in this case, I only set one per tab because I wanted to differentiate them by the name exactly. Alright, so this application here is finished. The next thing we're going to do today is, in fact, create the administrator dashboard. Alright, so firstly, we're going to have to create the applications that are going to be used in the dashboard itself. So let me close here the tabs appointments. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to create a couple of grids and a couple of charts. So the first one that we're going to create is going to be the grid itself. Let's go here, new application, grid, and I'm going to place a custom SQL that I have here. Let me close this. Let's go here to grids, name is grid count, new appointments SQL. What it does a count on all the appointments where the current status equals 1. Let me get also the name here. Okay, so let's create that. Let me run it. The current status 1 equals awaiting confirmation. Alright, so as you can see here, this is how it's supposed to look like. Okay, but let's start here from one point. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Scriptcase and I'm going to change the orientation of this grid to be slide. Okay, leaving it slide, it's going to look like this. Alright, I'm going to add the routine that I have here to the on record, which is this code right here. What's it going to do? Basically, it's going to get the information, actually check if the count is more than 0. If it's greater than, it's going to set a link to the grid appointments administrator application. Alright. And it's going to set the color for the field red, in fact. Else is going to be black. Okay, so in the block that we already have created, when we create the application, I'm going to modify it. I'm going to set the labels to be shown below. So it's going to be set below. And it's not going to display the block name itself. After that, I'm going to go here to header. I'm going to remove the header. So I'm just going to disable that. And Then I'm going to go here to the toolbar, and I'm going to remove all the buttons from the toolbar, this being the top and bottom toolbar. Remove this and this. Save. Run the application. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to present you guys the layout CSS application themes from Scriptcase. That allows me to create various themes based on Scriptcase's themes. In this case, let me add a new one here. Let's go here to Project Properties. I'm going to add a theme from SC8. Let's go here. Where is it? Bluewood. Alright, save that. Let's go here to CSS application themes. And having here the Bluewood, I'm going to click Save As, leave it as a project level, and I'm going to call it Grid Theme. Save. Now what am I going to do here? Basically, what I just did, I created an application based from an existing one from Scriptcase. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to remove all the borders that I have here in the blocks, tables of the grid. So if I click here, grid, let's see here. Content. Okay, so the border here, basically I'm just set it to 0. Move here to color. And set it to none. Okay. The table. Set it to none. Hold up. The blocks also. Border set to none. The lines odd, set the border to none also. The even line also none. Okay, so let me save this. I'm going to go here to grid, count new appointments, and I'm going to go here to settings. And I'm going to select the grid theme that I have here. Let me apply it. Let me see here. Let me disable the sorting. None. And I need to adjust the size here of the field also. So when I click here, it redirects me to the grid administrator appointments. All right. This application here is finished. I'm going to create my second application, which is the grid appointments admin dashboard. Let's go to the grid. Let me get here its code. Okay, create it. Now, this application will basically show me the total appointments for each staff. I also need to enable a couple of fields. Let me go here to field positioning. Let me enable the total price. Save that. And I'm going to go here to the average rating. Since it's a currency, I'm going to set the decimal position to 2, actually. Total price also. Save that. 2. And in the toolbar, we're going to remove all the buttons. So remove that. And remove that. And also we're going to disable the header. Let's run the application. So this is what it's going to present us. Okay. This application here is finished. Let's create now the chart applications. Alright, so it's kind of similar to how we create the grid application. Basically just click here on charts. I'm going to select the appointments table. It loads the records, actually the fields as the grid. And this one is going to be called chart appointments counter. Create that. Okay, so here we have dimension, metrics, sorting, search, and charts. This is different. Basically, previously on Scriptcase 8.1, we had a tab here for the dimensions and another one for the metrics. But in this case, we now can set the fields, the amount that we desire to be dimensions, based on their type, in fact. So, but in this case, I'm going to set only 2 fields actually as a dimension. The first one's going to be the start date, which I can select the period I want. I'm going to set by month. Alright, and the current status. Okay, as the metrics, I'm going to set the record count. Alright, and the sum of the total price. Okay, let me save that. If you check here, we have 2 folders. We have the dimension folders and we have the metrics folders. That's why we created this. It allows us to, for instance, I can have the current status also in the metrics and check the sum of it, and it'll also appear in 2 different field configurations, because I can do separate configurations for each field depending if they are dimension or metric, basically. But in this case, I'm just going to save it like this. And in the current status, I'm going to set the lookup settings for it. Alright, so basically I'm just set here automatic. Create. Appointment status. Check. And let's run the application. Okay, so this is the bar. Basically we have here the records, total price. We have various chart types. Basically we have the bars, lines, area, pie, stacked, combination. Let's try the combination. So it's kind of a analytic view. Alright, so we have the 2D. Okay. You can also place the sorting, records ascending. Change it here. Okay. We also have the drill down option. So basically, if we have a multiple dimension, in this case, this is what happens. Let me go back here. Let me set it to the original one. Well, remember that we have two dimensions. We have the start date, which is the one that we see here right now, and the second dimension is the current status. So if I click here on November, I think, is when we have multiple statuses. So we have here the 3, 5, 1, which are supposed to be the current status ID itself. Each one of them, 2 records, the total price for each type of current status. Alright. In this case, I'm going to go here to Scriptcase. Let me go here to Settings. Just check here if the responsive desktop is already enabled. This means that if I reduce the size here, it's supposed to be responsive. Hold up. Okay, so it's responsive, but it also has a min size to respect, actually. Let me disable the header. Let's go here to Layout, Header and Footer. Disable the header. Another thing that we launched here on Scriptcase 9 is this theme option, which basically allows you to modify the color themes. Currently we have the SC flat. Alright, so any modifications that you do here only occurs to this specific chart, basically. If you want to modify anything else, you have to go here to Layout, Chart Themes, and create your own chart theme there and modify it so you can access it globally. In this case, here you can only access the ones, actually you can only access and modify currently in this specific application. For instance, we have here the border. You can modify the border here. Let's say use. Change here the width to 5. It's an outside border. You can increase the opacity of it. If there's any background border, actually, you can set it in. There's the background itself. I can change the color, put it to black. Alright. There's a title I can change. Kind of has the original one with the fonts. You can change it to this one. Alter the size. And other options that we have here. But remember, if I save this here, it's only going to affect this chart application. It's not going to affect the others. Alright, so if you want to do any custom modifications specifically to one chart, that's the option that you're looking for. If you want to create a new theme to access in various charts, you have to access here Layout, Chart, Themes to do that. It's basically the same interface that I just showed you. In this other option that we have here, we have the sortings of the metrics that we placed. We have the fields that can be enabled for the search module of the application. And we have the chart options that we can enable in a more advanced way. Alright, so this application here is finished. Let's create another chart application. This other chart application is going to show the average rating. Alright, so let's go here, create a new chart. It's going to be based on the appointments table. So let's click here, appointments, and we're going to add a where clause here. Where the current, let me copy it. Current status ID equals 5, and the appointment rating is greater than 0. So let's create that. Okay, so for the dimensions, I'm going to select the start date again, and I'm going to select the staff ID. For the metrics, I'm going to select the record count and the average for the rating. Change here to average. Alright, let me save that. Let me go here to the staff ID to set the lookup settings for this field. Automatic, create select, staff, check, and I'm going to remove the header from this layout. Let me run it. I forgot to set the start date to be by month, actually. Supposed to access here, month. Okay. Okay, so let's access this one. Okay, we're the staff ID. Jacob was 5. Yeah, okay. It's okay. Okay, so this application here is finished and comes to the primary one that we're going to create, which is the dashboard. So let's go here, dashboard. I'm going to call it dashboard underline ADM. And this dashboard is different from the previous one of Scriptcase 8.1. Why is that? Because it now allows us to redimension the widget just by dragging it. Before, I needed to place the size in pixels and try to force a widget to be one beneath the other in different sizes. And this one, basically, I'm going to create 3 more widgets. Alright. Actually, let me link this one. This one I'm going to call it the appointment count. It allows me to filter out the application I want. In this case, I only wanted to show the grids, which is this one here. New appointments, actually. New appointments. Grid count new appointments. Allows me to set any options in the toolbar itself. I'm going to disable all of them. They should have just set here an option to check all or uncheck. The properties, set the widget execution properties, display widget header, removable, collapse, minimize. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me save it. Okay, so if I run this dashboard as it is now, it's going to look like this. Alright. I'm going to add a new link widget. This one being the staff details. Link it to the grid. This one right here. Also unchecking all of them. Seriously, they should have just placed here an option to uncheck all. Save. And it kind of stays here loose, but basically I just hold and drag it actually. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to redimension this widget to be this size, in fact. So if I run it now, this is how it's supposed to look like. Cool, right? I can do even better. Try it now so I can have a little bit more space here. Okay. And now I'm going to set the charts right beneath them, actually. Let's create a new link. Okay. Yeah, I have to keep dragging them here. Okay. So you have a 50% view. Let's be dividing here in the middle. I need to rename this application here because I just named it wrong. It's not supposed to be chart appointments. It's supposed to be chart appointments average rating, in fact. So let me rename that. Oops, not that button. This one. I need to generate the source code for both of them. So let me generate. Okay. Let me open up the dashboard I just closed. Let me add a new link. Ratings. Save. I think I can edit it from here. Column chart. Sortings, properties, compact mode. Yeah. I can leave at this, or let me try to organize it better. Drag this on top of this one. Okay. So this is the dashboard and the other applications that we created. Well, since these applications are finished, let me close them. I'm not going to use them right now, in fact. Close this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay. Now, guys, I'm going to need your help here to pay very close attention because these next applications that I'm going to create are in pure PHP. Alright, so it's going to be the blank applications that I'm going to create. The first one's going to be the calendar application that we're going to use. So let's open up here. New application. I'm going to select here the blank application. Alright, and the first one I'm going to call my calendar. Create it. Alright. Now, I'm going to need to use an external library in these applications. Basically, it's going to be an external JavaScript library. So, first, I need to import to Scriptcase that external library. So, I'm going to go here to Tools, External Libraries. And I'm going to create a new library. Alright. I'm going to call it lib underline appointments, and it's going to be accessed on a project level. So let's create that. And I'm going to say I'm going to use this library on my project. Let me click here and edit this library. Okay. So first, I'm going to create a directory called JS, as in JavaScript. In it, I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be called JS underline appointments.js. It identifies itself as a JavaScript file. So if I open up here, it allows me to insert JavaScript code. So I'm going to get here the JavaScript code that I have, which is this one right here. Basically, it contains a function that's going to check the selected options in our calendar application that we're going to create. Let me save this. Okay. Now, closing the external libraries, let's go back to that blank application that we created. And I'm going to place a routine that I have here, which is a little bit complex, but I'll explain to you guys as best as I can. The blank application only contains one event, which is the on execute, because it's when it opens, in fact. Okay, so we have a lot of code here. Well, at first, what do we have here? We have an echo printing out some JavaScript code. What is this any path prod thing that we see here? Well, this is a internal variable from Scriptcase that allows us to discover the path of our production environment. This being the path to the third-party libraries that our applications created by Scriptcase use, in fact. In this case, I'm looking for the thick box, which is a jQuery plugin that we have in our third-party libraries. So this is normally used to get that. Using it again here to get the CSS of the full calendar, the full calendar print, the thick box CSS, importing the jQuery JS, the jQuery UI, the full calendar min.js, and the thick box compressed JS. Doing all of this, do note I'm closing a PHP tag here, remembering that all the events that are in the applications, behind the scenes, it's already opened the PHP tag, not needing to open the PHP tag when coding in the event. In this case, what I just do, you can see, there's an echo, so I'm just printing out this information into the HTML normally. But here, I'm closing the PHP, and I'm typing in HTML hypertext code. So in this case, I have here the style tag, which I'm doing some modifications in the body, which is the HTML body. Some modifications to an element, which the ID is calendar, which will be our calendar in fact. Applying some modifications to an element that contains the class fcPast. The same thing for the element that contains the ID menu options. Alright. Also doing some modifications to the input elements, label elements, applying hover to the labels, and some toggles, applying different colors for the inputs. Down here, I'm doing some JavaScript coding, which basically, I'm getting the element calendar. As you can see here, this is the jQuery that we imported previously. jQuery, as I say previously, here, in fact. So this is importing the jQuery to the application. So using jQuery here, I'm getting the full calendar, setting the refetch events. Then when the document is ready, so when the page loads, I'm declaring the local variables in JavaScript, date, day, month, and year. Also applying to the header of the full calendar, the month, agenda week, agenda day, and SC agenda. Center will be the title, and the right will be the previous, next, and today. So basically this is a mapping on where each button is going to be located in the calendar itself. Next, the button text. This basically is going to be the manipulation or the navigation buttons that we're going to see on the calendar itself with the label of each button. Here I'm just applying a JavaScript array, setting the months in extent, the abbreviation of the months, the same thing for the days, and down here I'm setting some formats. Alright, setting the height of the calendar, the default view, removing the all-day slot. Okay, so this is very basic, not much to see. This code that we see here, tbShow, this is an internal Scriptcase function that is used to display the model that we saw on the official calendar application. In this case, I'm opening the appointments, the phone appointments application itself, passing as a parameter all these routines that we see here in the link itself. So this is considered the parameters itself that Scriptcase behind the scenes sends to the application. Alright, going down here a little bit more. Where is it? There's a routine here that calls another application. Let me just find it. Okay, here it is. This event here. This is what basically will give this calendar all the data necessary to be displayed in the agenda itself. Please note, I have an URL here that's looking for an application called JSON. I'm going to need to create that application. This application is going to serve as a web service, which basically is going to inform in a JSON format all the data that's going to be loaded into this calendar application. Alright, so let's create here this JSON application. Let's click here on New Application. Blank. And call it JSON. It's in lowercase, yes. Create. Now, let me go back here, open up here to JSON, and copy its code here. It's a little bit more familiar. Alright, so basically, we're doing the same routine that we did on all of our previous applications. Getting the ID, status description, staff ID, staff name, appointment start date, start time, end date, end time. Alright, now, this if that I have here, I'm getting the value that's been sent to the post variable of the PHP when calling this application. In this case, OPTS. If we check here in my calendar application, I'm calling that in fact. See, I'm sending an event to this JSON application, sending a parameter through the post type of method, where the data that's supposed to be sent to the variable OPTS is the value of the checked input in my calendar. So getting this, it's going to return the value if it's set. So dynamically changing the where clause here, where the current status ID is in, so this is basically returns a list where the OPTS, as in where's like current status 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's supposed to be returning here. So this is going to filter the SQL that I have here, and I'm going to get each position of the dataset and apply it to local variables. As the ID of the event, the description, the start date, start time, end date, end time, status, and staff. Checking the status, checking if the case is 1, then I'm going to set this color. If it's 2, I'm going to set this color. If it's 3, I'm going to set this color. If it's 4, I'm going to set this color. If it's 5, it's going to set this color. Getting all that information, I'm going to create an array with each of those local variables, basically create them in this format: ID, title, start, and all day, and the color itself, and do an echo in the JSON encode. So if I just run this application, this is what it's going to return me. It's only displaying this format very pretty, in fact, because I have this extension here installed on my Chrome. In fact, this JSON view here. So it formats the JSON for me to see better. Alright? So this is going to be returned to the calendar application. So when I run the calendar application itself, it's going to filter the information based on the staff. You set it here for a month view. Okay, so we see here the appointments that I created last week. So if I click here in one, this is the on-click event that's been applied by the JavaScript. It opens up the form application that we have created previously with all its data normally. Okay. So if I close it, alright. If I uncheck this, it's not going to show the listed. Okay. Mark the opened. And it's going to show a bunch. Here's one from Abraham. As you can see here, Abraham. Alright. So this application here is finished. I only have one more application to show you guys today, which is another blank application that's going to be used to validate to which home application, or actually, yeah, home is going to be loaded depending on the user that's been logging in. Basically, let me create here another application, a blank application, and I'm going to call it home. Create it. And get the code here. On execute. And basically what it does, it verifies the user group that we're going to create tomorrow in the security module. If it's 2, it's going to be a staff, and it's going to redirect to the calendar appointment staff. If it's 3, it's going to redirect to the grid appointments customer. And if it's not neither of those, it's going to redirect to the dashboard admin. So if I run this application, this is what it's supposed to show me, in fact. 3. Better yet, go back. 1. Alright, so if I place this in the menu application, just find it right here. If I go here to the menu application, it allows me to set a default application that's going to be loaded when the menu opens. So I'm going to set it to one application, this being in the settings. And I'm going to link that home application I just created. Home, imports. If I run the menu application now, this is what it's supposed to show me. Menu on top, and a dashboard below. Okay guys, have a nice evening. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow at the same time, alright? Bye guys.